McVay, multiple-time Super Bowl champion. He's a former general manager in the NFL. He's a former contributor consultant, which is currently happening in Green Bay with Saleh and LaFleur. He's a TED speaker. He's an author. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lombardi.
Yeah, Lombo. What's up, guys? How we doing today?
Lombo.
How are we doing?
We're doing great. Obviously, week 8 of the NFL season's kicking off. That's good news. Coach Pagano just addressed Cooper Kupp there at the end. With trade rumors swirling around him, and the answer he gave was he's going to be where his feet are, and he's going to give everything he can to this locker room and team. Obviously, he's doing everything in the right way you would hope for. Does that affect him? And how do you think McVay treats Cooper Kupp, knowing that there's a chance they're trying to shop him? How do you think tonight goes for that Rams offense?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is a huge game for them. They might get Puka back, too. They get 2 of those guys back tonight. That certainly will help them against Minnesota, which will be critical. As Chuck said, you can't run the ball on Minnesota. That's a hard thing to do. So they're going to need their receiving core. You know, Sean wants to run the football to really set up all his other stuff with the motion that he does. But I think, to me, Kupp's a pro, and he knows that, you know, he's making a lot of money. And the Rams lose a game like this one, they could be looking at, I don't want to say a rebuild, but a kind of refocus of their team. And certainly Puka is really a good player, and he's going to be the number 1 receiver when he comes back. And maybe it's too much to pay a number 2 receiver. Now, the Rams have said to teams they're willing to pay some of the salary, which is really important in this deal. And there's teams out there we know that need wide receivers. Certainly they're not going to trade them up to San Francisco, but Tampa needs a receiver with Godwin's injury. You know, we know that Pittsburgh's been hunting around for a wide receiver all the time. A lot of this is going to come down to, do teams feel like Cooper can stay healthy, and how much will he really impact the team, and how much does he have left?
I wonder all those things that the teams are wondering, but when he's playing, he is electrifying.
Yeah.
What was it? Yards, touchdowns, catches, and yak.
Yeah.
It was he won the triple crown, which is those, but then he also won actually the quarter horse too.
Yeah.
He won the yak, yards after catch, that 1 year with Stafford. His connection with Stafford, 9 and Dime, I believe they even have a podcast at Hangout, is one that'll be chatted about. They were a great duo. Then he kind of did catch the injury bug, and I don't think that was normal for him, but it seemingly has showed up a couple different times. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy, and if he gets added to one of those teams and goes on a Super Bowl run, it'd be fun to hear Cooper Kupp talk about it all.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp's good dude.
Oh, yeah.
Good beard.
Yep.
Yeah.
A beard makes him look Amish.
Jock.
See, jocked Amishman right now. It is could be a good Steeler. Could be a good Steeler. But you talk about Godwin's injury. Mike Evans
he's a
also.
great story, too. I mean, this is a 3rd-round pick that they get that comes in there, and he's gotten better every year of his career. The hard work that he's done. But look, this year's been rough on him. He's had 27 targets. He's only had 18 catches. He's averaging under 9 yards a catch. He's at 8.2. So, you know, if you're watching him on tape, you're asking yourself, he's 31. How much does he have left? And, you know, what are we going to get out of this thing? You know, what are we going to get out of this? So I think that's key.
It's Brandon's theme song.
I think you picked it up.
Hello, hey, how's it going? Good day, my name's
That was
Pat.
my wife calling. And my wife
Hey,
was calling
mama.
me in the middle of it.
Grazie, Lombardi. Yeah, so a lot of people are wondering if he's going to stay healthy. What does this do about Matt Stafford? If they end up trading Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald retires, they trade Cooper Kupp, Puka's going to be the number 1 wide receiver going forward. Does that mean Stafford's going to be his quarterback? Because you've been saying for a bit, there has been some times where the Rams have maybe looked to move Matthew Stafford.
They debated that. I mean, 2 years ago when I reported, of course, they denied it, but he was available to all the teams. I think it was last offseason, not this offseason. And then this offseason, he wanted a contract extension or a contract kind of replenishment, if you will, and they eventually did give him that. So I think you know, if you are Kevin Demoff, Les Snead, and Sean McVay, you're at a crossroads, right? And this game is so important. If you're 2-5, you know, you're ranked 13th in the NFC. Are you really going anywhere? You know, the NFL doesn't tank like the NBA does, but certainly, do we really want to go down this road and see where we are? Are we better off looking at Bennett? The thing that worries you most is when you have these guys with huge contracts that may have skill injury guaranteed into the next year. If a guy gets hurt, you're stuck for that contract. So I think this is an organizational decision that they have to come to where they think they're going, where they can go from here. You know, Matthew Stafford's really an incredible player and a tough guy. but he's playing behind an offensive line that's missing a bunch of starters, and they're not playing very well, and he's getting the crap beat out of them. So I think there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, Les, figure it out over there, Les.
Yep.
We got faith. McVay, obviously a phenomenal football coach. I think everybody agrees with that. Excited to see what the Rams are, what they become in the future, as you chat about. Let's talk about the present and the future. It was talked about in New York. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Lombo, John Mara basically said that he doesn't anticipate making any changes and that Brian Dable and Joe Shane are going to be safe, especially when you look at the previous tenures of some of the head coaches he's had who haven't stuck around for longer than 2 seasons. What do you think of this move, and how far away do you think the Giants are from being competitive in the NFC East?
Well, I mean, the number one thing is you got to get the quarterback. They went ahead and felt Daniel Jones was the guy, signed him to that contract. As I reported 2 years ago, it was going to affect their salary cap. Now their best players playing in Philadelphia, and it did. And, we heard all off season about Joe Shane saying we're going to get this offensive line better. I mean, did you watch the Eagle game? They'd have been better off counting the 5 Mississippi the way they were playing out there. It was hard. Evan Neal, one of his draft picks, is sitting over there on the bench, and they need offensive linemen. So, look, I don't know what John Maurer would have said anything different at where he was honoring his dad, Wellington. I mean, what's he going to say? No, I'm fed up. Everybody's out of here. I think he's got to keep evaluating it and make a decision. If he feels like they're making progress, if he feels like they're going in the right direction, then obviously he's got the authority to go towards that direction and give them another year. But I think that's only he can make that decision. Look, they spent this offseason. We had to peek inside to Hard Knocks. We saw their plan. We saw their vision, right? We got to learn a lot about the Giants front office organization and how they make decisions. And the team that they put together that they thought was going to be much better isn't. And that offensive line, which they put a priority on, hasn't improved. And now the line's not good. The quarterback's not good. Their best player just, didn't even try to set the record because he had enough. He sat on the bench and let the other guys play. So it's a hard situation, but it starts and ends with decisions, right? One of the things you learn being in the league, as long as I've been in the league, you make choices, right? You made a choice. They decided to sign Jermaine Illuminor and give him $1 million more. They decided to sign an offensive guard and pay him. And then they said, well, we didn't have any money for Saquon. No, you make choices. You could take some of that money and steer it somewhere else if you wanted to. And so I think that's ultimately where we all get judged on, is the choices we make.
The fact that we all got to see exactly how they laid out the team and how it was going to go and who they're betting on and who they were not willing to give money to, that is anybody going to do Hard Knocks offseason like that?
They should.
To me, I'm at NFL Films 2 days a week with Coach Belichick, and I said, but what did you, after what they showed us, did you leave anything on the cutting room floor? And they all just kind of laughed. I mean, like this access that we had in their decision making, to me, I write a lot about leadership and what I do. I mean, you could write a course on how to make decisions or how not to make decisions based on what we were privy to on that. Like for me, I was, as a personnel man my whole entire life, I was offended by the randomness of how they decided to sign players. Like, you have to put models together. Like, if we sign player A and play him this much, how much money do we have left over for this? If we sign this, how much money do we have for that? And if you don't do models and you don't see your team, you got real issues.
I didn't hear enough information talked about before decisions were made in that Hard Knocks. And they were showing us full meetings.
They never said one time in the entire Hard Knocks, how do we beat Philly? How do we beat Dallas? When they decided to sign Brian, if I would have brought, and Chuck will verify this, if I would have brought Al Davis and said, hey, Mr. Davis, I want to sign Brian Burns. And you know what he'd have said to me? Well, first of all, he wants 20, whatever he wants a year. He would have said, well, how many sacks did he get against Kansas City? How many sacks did he get against, against the Chargers? How many sacks did he get against the Broncos? That's all he cared about. Yep. You never heard that. You never heard that. Like, what was Burns' relationship against Dallas, against Washington, against, Philadelphia? That's the kind of stuff we talk about. It really wasn't there. And to me, it was a little bit of offensive. I got to be honest.
You win the division, obviously, you get in the dance, and you have a home playoff game. Who knows what can happen there? You got to beat your, normal opponents on a regular basis. There's been so many moves that have been made to do that. Everybody in the AFC South was chasing Peyton Manning, so they're all getting edge rushers. Remember down there in Houston, I think it was Charlie Casserly maybe, he decided to bring in Mario Williams over Reggie Bush, and they wanted to run his ass out of town. And he said, I'm trying to tackle Peyton Manning. Can Reggie get to Peyton Manning? If that can happen,
it's right.
You let me know in this entire thing. It's different situations. That was my first time seeing an off-season office. And as somebody that's very interested in that side of football as opposed to the coaching schedule. Like, I would never sign up to be a coach in the NFL, ever. Front office personnel, that world, would love to get into it maybe. Now, I know there's long hours, but I like the philosophical shit as opposed to the we need to find somebody's heel off the ground on third down so then we can target that person. I would much rather. So I was very invested in that particular Hard Knocks. And I'm watching those meetings happen, and this is kind of our reaction whenever we learn about how a lot of businesses operate. You're like, how is that what's happening? It's almost inspiring because you think to yourself, I think I could do that. I think I could do that. But then you're also disappointed.
It looks like how we made, if we were at some sports bar, that's how we would make, it looks like people were doing their fantasy draft. That's
it looks like this show. It looks like this show is happening.
And that's offensive to me who spent my career. That's not how you do it. That's not how
But maybe there's different ways.
That's Chuck.
Yeah,
it's offensive. And so, look, I get John Mara. He's got to say what he said. But I mean, if he ends up having a top 3 pick, I mean, are you sure we're going to do that again? I don't know.
So that's
I don't know.
So that's the thing. It's kind of like the Browns situation. Like, I like when teammates are good teammates for people, but the situation needs call for it.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So in this one, I like whenever ownership says we're going to be patient and we're going to do it. But if you finally decide to be patient with somebody and it happens to be the wrong boy, now you're setting your, and it's like, I'm not saying they're the wrong ones. I just saw a couple scenes, okay?
Yep.
And in those scenes, I thought to myself, that better work out. And then when it doesn't work out, you immediately think there's consequences. And, what's it called whenever you get hired for like your actual ability? Merit-based.
Yep.
Professional sports, the NFL, is a merit-based business.
Meritocracy.
It always has been. For players at least. If you're not good, you're not going to have a job for long.
Players.
For players.
Players. It's what the great Bill Walsh said to me one time when I was a young scout. He said, this is not the league of the best and the brightest. And so what he meant by that was he understood that there's a lot of politicalness that goes into the NFL when people get jobs on more players. It's certainly a meritocracy. You play the best player. But sometimes, as we see on some teams, Deshaun Watson gets $230 million. He wasn't the best quarterback, but he kept playing because he got $230 million. So you get a little bit of that. But the NFL, the front offices and some of that's not based on how intelligent you are or how much you're accurate. It's based on who do you know.
I don't know Joe Shane, and I'm sure he's a good guy.
I don't either.
I'm sure he's a good guy. But when he decided to obviously lie to Mara in that one scene where he goes, oh, I just got a text. Yeah, Chicago's running it up. Philly's out. So I heard.
Yeah.
Like, that was obviously a lie. That was obviously a lie in that moment. As soon as you watch it, first time you go, that's a lie. Right there.
His job is to know what Philly's doing. You have to know your competition.
I know, but it just felt like it was like he should have said, I don't want to pay Saquon, as opposed to
he didn't want to do it. He wanted to pay Singletary. He wanted nothing to do with Barkley. He was tired of Barkley. It was exhausting.
But I wish he would have just said that as opposed to saying, I think Philly's out actually, so we can let him go. Like, I just didn't like the way. That's not how I go about saying things. So I think that's probably why I don't really like it in the way it went. But as you watch it, it's like, oh, he chose to lie about something right here, obviously, to his owner, just to get out of this conversation. And if you're a general manager, I feel like you have to have conversations. Like, you can't just run around combos. Like, you can't dance out.
You guys always talk about honesty. Like, the players only want honesty, coaches only want honesty.
And there's situations where you can just, let's get out of this.
Yeah, sure.
Like, let's just get out of this, But when it's coming to, like, franchise player decisions being made, like, I think that conversation has to happen where you say, and if you're going to do it, you put your mentality on the table and say, I don't want to pay Saquon Barkley. We paid Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay him. I'm not going to pay him no matter what the price, whether Chicago's driving it up or not, whether he's going to Philly or not.
Right.
I don't want to pay him because I play in this. And then this is where you do the whole song and dance presentation. Singletary did this. They did this. We paid Daniel Jones this. We'll be, even if he goes to Philly, we're okay.
Yep.
Instead, he opted to do Philly's out.
Yeah, they're out.
And that's exactly why Mara said he's not firing him. He's like, I'm going to get this son of a bitch back so bad. I'm going to lie about not Now!
I just didn't like that. Like, I think he's a good guy, but like in the business sense of the situation, in the decision that's being made there, I think he kind of like opted out of it.
The nephew, Tim McDonald, asked the most appropriate question of anybody. He said, what's our identity if we lose this guy? And now we look 8 games into the season, 8 weeks into the season, they have no identity. They're a dink and dunk offense. They take some 16 plays to kick a field goal. I know they have neighbors on their team. They can't make an explosive play. And guess what? We can't block anybody. We can't pass protect, and it's only going to get worse. We lose our best pass protector, Andrew Thomas. It's only going to get worse. And every time they play against a good pass rush team, I mean, I think Daniel Jones. Look, I'm not in love with Daniel Jones as a player. He's smart. But when I'm in love with that kid, he's tougher than hell because I've never seen him call quarterback draw on two in the same series. I mean, they'll run quarter. They have no regard for his health whatsoever. They'll just run his. If I was his dad, I'd be calling Dayball on the phone and say like, "Hey, Brian, why you hate my kid? Why are you trying to kill my kid?"
They paid him $40 million. We need to figure out what he's good.
Yeah, you gotta get him moving.
Hey, you guys don't even have a fireman Ed over there, huh? Spelling out Giants. What is good for the Giants? Bruce Brown. Is there anything?
League neighbors.
He's a dog.
He's great.
He's a dog. Future's bright there.
Dexter Lawrence.
Sexy Dexter.
Sexy leading the league in sacks at tackle. So there is some positive. There it is.
But they're like the Jets, though, Pat. They haven't won very much.
Baseball.
Look, they went to the playoffs in Brian's first year, but before that, as you put that graphic up, they've been through coaches like crazy. And here's the biggest issue. They haven't closed the gap on Philly or Dallas. Like they haven't. In the last 10 years, they're the only team that hasn't won the East, right? They're the only team that hasn't won the East. Philly's won the East. Dallas has won the East. Washington won the East twice.
Jeez.
The Dallas has won it 5 times. I think Philly.
And nobody's ever repeated.
They've all
in that
won
one,
it.
right?
Yeah, it's cycle.
Nobody's ever repeated, and they haven't done it.
Nobody's
10 years.
repeated except for the Giants have never been the team that won it. The years they went to the Super Bowl and won it, they were wild card teams.
They've repeated the cycle of missing out on winning the thing when everybody else was dancing and do-si-do. And Imara, you can tell it affects him because in that Hard Knocks, head down all the time.
Going through
Shoulders, head. A lot of that.
I will jump off the Brooklyn Bridge if we lose Saquon to Philadelphia.
Well, Saquon almost had a record-breaking day.
Yeah. Grab a
Against
chair,
John
too.
Mara. So let's keep
Didn't you
eyes
just
on.
know that was coming?
Had to.
Yep.
God damn.
Felt
You
he
knew it was.
Especially with Sirianni,
You
too.
knew it.
Spoke that. Oh,
Sirianni was like, hey, we're going to make sure these.
Yeah.
Bill said everyone in the league knew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he said, you kind of know what's going to happen out there. All right, let's talk about a team that is winning and still making moves. Conman has a question for you.
Yeah, Lombo, how'd you feel about the D-Hop to the Chiefs trade? It feels like the Chiefs once again are going to go on a massive run and three-peat this Super Bowl bullshit that no one wants to see. But how'd you feel about the trade? And is that perfect for Patrick Mahomes in that offense?
Well, I think Kansas City knows who they are, and D-Hop's not going to make them an explosive offense or put them in the 30-point-a-game range. But what he's going to be able to do is convert third downs. He's got a huge catch radius, and he's got a really good eye-hand coordination. This team is all about their defense, right? Their defense is what's carrying them. Now, they've got to get Patrick Mahomes to stop turning the ball over. He knows it as well as anybody. But what I think D-Hop gives them is somebody who, if you play zone against him, he's going to get open. If you play man against him, he's going to be covered, but yet he's still going to make the catch. And he'll convert the sticks. He's not going to get over 11 yards a catch. It's not going to be needed. But Andy Reid has tailored this team. When Pacheco comes back, they're a run, control the clock, and win with their defense. And so it fits their personality, their identity. This identity happened last Christmas when they decided, you know what? We got to change. We got to stop thinking we're going to score 30 points a game. We're going to win with our defense. And they've continued that. So it fits where they are right now. It really does. It fits where they are right now. Look, Baltimore is a huge challenge. There's no question. But Baltimore's given up, so many points in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is an amazing thing about Baltimore. Baltimore's given up 84 points in the fourth quarter. They've only given up 96 in the other 3 quarters combined. So if they don't fix how they play pass defense late in the game, like you guys, like Chuck talked about, it's going to be problematic. Dean Peace will help them, there's no doubt. They need some experience on that staff because they lost so many good coaches. But they need to make a trade to maybe get another corner. They're going to need to do something to step up. But Baltimore, make no mistake about it, Baltimore with Derrick Henry and the way Lamar's running the ball, the way that offense is going, they're going to be really a problem for everybody.
The AFC stacked at the top, not as deep as the NFC is what people are saying. Now let's pivot away from on-field play. Let's start talking about decision-makings that organizations are going to have to do. About 3 minutes to a hard out. Chuck Pagano, Paisano in a velour jumpsuit has a question for you.
Hey, Lombo, real quick, we were talking about job security with Daboll and the Giants. Who are some of the guys? We're at the halfway point right now in the season, pretty much. Who are some of the guys? We had the usual suspects from last year. Ben Johnson from Detroit, Aaron Glenn from Detroit, maybe Slowick down at Houston. Is there some other guys that we need to put out there you have on your radar that could be candidates? Some of these openings that are going to happen?
I think those are all the guys that have done a good job offensively and defensively within the framework of the scheme. Certainly, I mean, look, Jeff Hafley's done a really good job up at Green Bay. He's been a head coach before. He certainly should move to a top of a lot of people's list because he brings head coaching experience into the situation.
Yeah, get him out of there.
Nope.
You know, so I think to me that you want somebody. Look, I think you need. For me, if I were hiring, I want somebody who's been a head coach in some element before. Look, I think the colleges are fed up too. There should be some college coaches that want to try to get into the pro football as well because of all the NIL and all those things. But I think to me, look, I think you look for a guy that's had a really good turnaround with the team like Hafley's done there at Green Bay. They're playing much better defense. I think they've given up 31 first downs in the last 2 weeks. They're really good. This week was the first time they won a game where they didn't turn the ball over by their defense.
Yeah, the coaching stuff every week. You know?
It's wild.
Like Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy. Is he going to be available? Is he going to get a job somewhere else if he gets let go from the Dallas Cowboys after his final year of his contract here? Hafley obviously getting into the mix. That'd be a big bummer, even though Salah's around. And then you talk about Ben Johnson. Why the hell is he still allowed to be at Detroit this year?
Can't lose him.
Well, he go on another one. It's like
Kingsbury.
Well, but I think that here's the key, Pat. Here's the key. They're paying so much to coordinators now that the agents who represent the players are saying to themselves, do we really want to go there? Do you want to go to work for David Tepper at Carolina? And even though he's going to give you a 6-year contract, or you wait for the right job to open up? And if you're Ben Johnson, I think the answer is you wait for the right job.
Okay, we got 40 seconds. You like Vikings tonight or you like the Rams? 80% of the money, I guess, is on
the Vikings tonight. I think Hawkinson comes back. I think if Sean McVay can't run the football on you, that's when he gets into problems. I think the Vikings will play well. Sam Darnold. I'm looking for the best tie night of Al Michaels' year because he probably had dinner at Toscano's, and that tie is going to be magnificent. Make sure you look at it, Boston.
We will. We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Lombardi.